Hey, hello everybody, welcome to episode 3 of painting super fun tiny acrylic landscape paintings. Today is going to be a super special episode. Not only are we going to paint a landscape in about 11 minutes time, which is totally doable and super fun, we're also doing a grand giveaway at the end of this video. So we're going to be giving away 3 paintings in total, including the mini that we're painting in today's episode. The mini that we've painted in the previous episode. I'll put a little card up in the corner. You can click that button to go to the previous episode and have a look at that one. And we're also going to give away one big painting. So 3 paintings in total. There's going to be a competition. Like all the details are going to be at the end of this video. So you can go skip to that for all the details. Or you can stick around and watch me paint first. And then the details will pop up eventually towards the end of the video. So it's going to be super fun. Be sure to enter. And winners will be announced on probably 1 week from now on the Friday, I think. Yeah, well, we have more details later, but I think it's going to be next week. Without further ado, let's get to the painting stuff and talk about what I'm actually doing out here. I've got myself a 7x7 centimeter canvas. It's super small. And I dropped in just a little bit of blue for the sky. It's a very light blue because today's painting is going to be nice and sunny. And then with that same dirty brush, I didn't clean my brush at all. I added in a little bit of rose to make this purpley color. And I'm just going to drop in these far away hills. And because these are a little bit purplish and a little bit on the blue side, they immediately kind of blend together with the sky. And they look like they're super far away, all the way into the distance across the valley. And as we get closer to the foreground, I'm adding in tiny smidges of green and yellow. And the closer things are to you, the more vivid those colors become. So I was kind of going for like grassy fields, kind of like rolling hills kind of idea. So the hills that are closer to you, they're going to turn a little bit more green and a little bit more yellow as the ones that are in the far distance. The ones in the far distance, they can stay as purple as they are and later. And we're not going to touch them up anymore. But every time we get a little bit closer, I'm adding in a little bit more green and a little bit more yellow. And even a little bit of white, even in the foreground here. And you can already tell it creates the illusion of distance. And it's a super fun and effective way to create that illusion. It's really, really easy to do. You just got to make sure you start with the right colors. Here I've got a different brush. It's very fluffy, it's very old, and it's perfect for making a little fluffy clouds. And what I'm doing is I'm grabbing just a little bit of white, might have been a little bit of medium involved, and then I smudge some on, and then I grab a clean dry brush just to soften up the bottom parts of these fluffy clouds. So I'm constantly switching between brushes where I'm like, one brush that actually has the paint loaded onto it, and that's creating all the white dots and the white paint on the painting, and then a clean brush to kind of smudge it up and fluff it up. And that's what creates those nice soft gradient effects that kind of resemble clouds. And that's it. That's all there is to it to make clouds. And I'm using the same fluffy brush, the one that's like old and fluffy, because all the bristles are kind of like spread apart and old. It's really good for like grassy textures, so I use that same brush for a little bit of grass here in the foreground. And here I've got probably one of the smaller brushes I have with a little bit of brown and green loaded up onto it. And I figure we're going full Bob Ross mode here, and we're just going to drop in a huge tree here in the foreground. So we got all these nice hills in the background, and then we're going to try to set it apart a little bit in the foreground with a massive tree over here. And I thought it was kind of cool to leave the tree lonesome. It's just going to be like one lonesome tree on the hill. And I'm just thinking about, how is this tree shaped? Where are these branches going to live? And trees grow whatever they want to turn into. They grow in every kind of direction and in any kind of shape or form you can possibly imagine. So it's all very loose. One thing though is for these branches, I try to kind of like roll the brush back and forth, left and right, while trying to keep the tip of the brush kind of sharp and chiseled. I don't want it to be too fluffy. So it's a very light touch. I'm not actually pressing down on the brush too hard. I'm trying to keep the edge of the brush kind of chiseled and sharp so that the lines that are appearing on the canvas are very thin. And with the paint that's already on the canvas. I'm just kind of smearing it out and looking, just kind of like refining the shape of the tree right now. Sip of coffee, why not? And I'm mixing up the color a little bit. I added in a little bit more of the, I think it was red oxide and a little bit of brown maybe, to give the tree or the branches at the very end, at the very tips, a little bit of a warmer hue than in the center, because the center branches, they're more likely to be covered by all kinds of leaves and stuff, and they will have cooler colors in them because they have more shadow cast on them. Whereas the branches that are high up and at the very ends, at the very tips, they are less likely to be covered by leaves and stuff and foliage. So they're more likely to catch a little bit more sunlight, which means they're going to be a little bit warmer and a little bit brighter in color. Back to our fluffy brush, just with the very edge of the brush, very tip of all these bristles that are all like scattered and old and fluffy and set apart from one another. Just with the very corner of the brush, I'm just dropping in some leaves here and there with this greenish color. And this is quite dark. We're going to be layering in some highlight later on. This is just our basic shape of the tree. And it's totally okay to cover some of the branches that we painted earlier. Like, that's what happens with a tree in real life too. That's what's going to give it depth. You got to cover some of these branches that you've just put in your hard work of layering in, but that's fine. Just cover it up. It's cool. And then back to our small brush. Just gonna go in and drop in a couple of leaves here at the highlight, adding in a bunch more yellow. And as you can see, the darker shades that we just put in with our bigger brush, they're quite cold green colored. And now we're going to go in for some highlight with a little bit of warm green color and warm yellowish color. Just with the very tip of the brush. Letting that brush bounce around, dance around every section separately. So we don't want to cover up all of the dark stuff that we just put in, just the very tip of all the dark stuff. And you can divide your tree up into little sections where this might be like one branch that has a bunch of leaves on it, and that separate bunch of leaves is going to get a separate bit of highlight. We don't really want to turn it all into one color, if you know what I mean. I'm going to use that same color to lay in a little bit of grass here at the bottom. Yeah, it should do. And already this tree is looking like it's coming more alive already. It's super fun and easy to do. Doesn't take a whole lot of time. But it does take a little bit of patience, where you got to think about like I'm kind of tapping this brush up and down like very quickly, like tap, 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 tap. And every time you tap, you just want a little bit of paint to come off your brush. And you definitely don't want to blob and make like a big smudge on it. It's a very gentle tap. And you just got to do that a couple times, and every time you go in for another layer, and be sure to lighten up the color a little bit and change up the color a little bit, because the more variety you can add in your colors onto the canvas, the more realistic it's going to look. Leaves are all kinds of colors. They're not just green or yellow. They can be all kinds of shades in between. Every individual leaf has its kind of like own shade, and has its own, catches its own like little rays of sunlight, making it look a little bit different. So if you can incorporate that in your painting, it's going to look more real and more real every time you go in for a new layer. I figured some of the bark and stuff could do with a little bit lighter color, so I just added in a bit of this kind of like a beige color just over on the left side of that tree. And we're going to use a bit of that same color just here and there, a little bit of white in there too, just as our final highlight color. As if some leaves are like catching, like a full ray of sunlight, and they're almost white in their reflection. There could be some of those reflections in the grass, maybe in the far distance, like so. And that really sets it apart, the foreground from the background. And then what I like to do is I take a little bit of bluish color, and just on the shadow side, just going to paint a little bit of reflective light. And what that means is basically dropping in a very bright blue, but it's still like in a shadowy color. And I don't know, I like those colors. It's a cool effect. And then with just a bit of pure white, just going to drop in a couple of birds here, just with a very gentle touch of the very chiseled edge of this brush. And these little triangle shapes. They're a little bit abstract, and that's totally fine, as long as it's like an indication of faraway birds flying around. And I'm just going to drop in my signature here at the bottom. Hope you all enjoyed this painting. We're going to be giving this away. I'm going to take a quick break, and then I'll be right back with you with all the details of our mega painting giveaway. Stick around for that, and then, yeah, we'll see you in a couple of seconds. Righto, everybody, that was a little painting for today. Hope you all had a good time watching me paint. And now we're going to get over to the details of our painting giveaway. Let's talk about prizes first. First up, one of the prizes is going to be this little painting, the one that we painted in our previous episode. Super awesome Moonlit Canyon. Our second prize is going to be the painting that we did today, our tree on the hill. Super cute, super tiny. Summery vibes for this one. And our grand prize is going to be this bad boy, which is a lot bigger. Oh, is it on screen? Does it fit on screen? Yeah, now you can see it's got epic mountains, forests, lakes, everything. It reminds me of Canada a lot. So you can win any of these. Let's talk about how you enter. So I was going to do a raffle, and here's how you enter the raffle. First way to enter the raffle is, if you're watching this on YouTube, you got to click the subscribe button. Be sure you're subscribed to the channel. And then leave a comment on this video saying like, hey man, I've subscribed to the channel. Give me one of those paintings. And then that's one entry into the raffle. If you're watching this on Instagram, you can go over to my Instagram account and click follow. And even if you've already followed me on Instagram, you can leave a comment on that video saying like, hey man, I follow you on Instagram. Give me one of them paintings. That'll be your second raffle entry. If you want to do both, totally recommend it, because it'll double your odds of winning one of these paintings. So on my YouTube channel, on this video, subscribe, and then comment on Instagram, give me a follow on that, and then leave a comment like, hey man, I followed you. That'll be doubling your odds of winning this one of these paintings. And then if you want to go to full whammy and you want to double your odds again, in those comments you can tag maybe 2 friends that might be interested in my artwork. And then that'll basically double any raffle entries that you've already done. So in a grand total of 4 raffle entries, if you comment on the YouTube video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the Instagram video, follow me on Instagram, and tag 2 friends in that comment on YouTube, tag 2 friends in that comment on Instagram. And then you've basically got 4 odds of winning any of these paintings. Winners will be announced in the episode of next week on Friday, August 7th. So we'll be back then with probably the same format where we do a little painting first. And then we'll announce the winners straight after. So that's going to be the setup. Get to work. Go do the things. Do all the things because you want this painting. Look at how cool. You're going to want this. So go do all the things, and then we'll catch you on the next episode later this week. And then winners will be announced next week, exactly 1 week from now on the Friday. Have an awesome day, everybody, and we'll see you on the next episode. Enjoy.